I just came back from watching Wicked, and you know what? Ariana has been changed for good. So first of all, guys, look at this amazing sweater that I got. My husband got it for me right before we watched the movie, so thank you, my love, for the cool merch. Before we proceed to the main topic, here's a quick non-spoiler reaction to Wicked for Good. Here's a very blurry picture of me that basically sums up my reaction. I watched it literally an hour ago, so it's fresh in my mind. And to be honest, I liked it very much. I did watch the musical on Broadway, so I do have a history with Wicked, but I don't consider myself a super fan or anything. Interestingly enough, I did like this movie more than the first one. And the first movie was amazing, so that was a high bar to clear. It's not a standalone movie. For people who are going to see this for the first time, you'll really have to watch the first film in order to understand what's going on. But to those who are familiar with the story already, it stays very true to Act 2 of Wicked, with a few surprises here and there. Basically, if you're a fan or if you enjoyed the first movie, there is a great chance you are going to enjoy this one. The acting across the board, for the most part, was pretty good. And of course, the singing. And this leads me to Glinda or Ariana. Ariana, Glinda, can we interchange both now? Let's just say that her acting does really level up on this one. Both Cynthia and Ariana are phenomenal, of course. But if Cynthia shined more in the first movie, I think Ariana takes this one, but just by a small margin. And of course, I'm particularly interested in how she matured as Glinda, but more importantly, as herself. I'm really glad that I waited to watch the movie before covering this topic, because today I want to talk about something really tender and incredibly human. How Ariana Grande used Glinda as both a mirror and a mask. At a time when her personal life was full of change and even grief, she stepped into a sparkly gown, held up a wand, and played Glinda the Good Witch. This role gave her safe space to hide the parts in her life that she wasn't ready to face. Why Glinda arrived at the exact time Ariana needed her. When Ariana was cast as Glinda, it was truly a full circle moment. A childhood dream come true. She's been literally saying for years how much she loves Wicked, and especially Glinda.
And since you're a Broadway girl, of course, you must love Wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you have dreamed of playing one of the two roles. Would you be Elphaba or Glinda?
Glinda.
You'd be Glinda.
For sure.
While many criticized the casting at first, I believe fans warmed up to Ariana once the first movie came out. But what a lot of people didn't see or understand was how much she needed to fulfill this dream. I don't think we understand how much she had been carrying for so long. She, of course, had the trauma of the Manchester bombing in May of 2017.
You see this shit on the news, it affects you, but not the same way. You feel bad, you tweet it, you post a picture, you send your condolences, you say something, and then you move on, you know.
That had definitely shaken her relationship with safety. She grieved and may still be grieving the complex, unfinished threads of losing Mac Miller, may he rest in peace, someone she deeply loved, cared for, and felt responsible for in ways the public never fully understood. And quietly away from the spotlight, during the actual filming from 2022 up to the promotion of Wicked to 2024, she was navigating the emotional unraveling of a divorce, something that feels a lot more lonely when the whole world is watching. Ariana's casting as Glinda feels and looks like a moment of rescue. Glinda gave Ariana something her real life couldn't, a stable emotional container. She became a safe space to pour feelings in and say what she couldn't out loud. Expressing and hiding at the same time. I think we all noticed that in interviews, when Ariana talked about Glinda, her voice would often soften and tremble. She became very emotional. When she performed scenes or musical moments, you could see the emotion rising in her eyes.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives.
And you see this in both real life and in the movies. It felt like watching someone who had been holding their breath for years, gently and slowly let out a small exhale. Let's also remember that Glinda became her mask too. Ariana didn't have to explain that her tears were about her divorce, or about guilt or grief, or about the weight she had been quietly carrying. She could simply say,
I think I learned so much from Glinda, and through Glinda, I kind of healed a lot of parts of myself.
and that was enough. Glinda gave her permission to express emotion without naming the source. It's quite the beautiful paradox. She hid behind a character she dreamt of becoming to help her heal, or at least begin to heal. How Glinda quietly saved Ariana. What moves me the most is about how Ariana speaks about Glinda. Because if you think about it, she's talking about herself.
Oh my God.
She truly embraced the character in her life, in how she speaks.
I worked really hard with a vocal coach and an acting coach to get ready because Glinda's vocal, track is very different than what I usually sing.
Her blonde hair color, her toned down makeup, her wardrobe. There's a softness, almost like gratitude, in the way she describes stepping into the character.
My first day on set for Wicked was the most emotional day of my life. All I remember is holding hands with Cynthia and John and crying and him saying just welcome to Wicked.
Portraying this character didn't demand loud strength from her. In fact, it needed quite the opposite. She needed to be as vulnerable as she could while wearing glittery outfits and carrying what I can only assume was a heavy weight in her heart. Ariana simply had to be sincere because movie director John M. Chu said this.
She came in as Ariana Grande, which has its own aura, and I think she had a higher mountain to climb. Wicked is too big to have Ariana Grande to then sit on top of it. And does she really want to commit? This is a very difficult role. You have to be funny, you have to be a great actor. Can she be intimate and let us in?
And that sincerity. The part of her she had learned to hide to survive fame, trauma, and heartbreak started coming back through this role. She claimed it. She proved to the world why she was cast. Glinda brought her back to a younger version of herself who knew life before it got a little too complicated. In many ways, Glinda saved her. Not dramatically, but gently, by giving her permission to feel again. A quick aside, Ariana versus Colleen Ballinger. This whole hiding behind a character thing reminded me of my previous video about Colleen Ballinger because the contrast between Ariana and Colleen is quite striking. Ariana used Glinda as a safe space to process her emotions, but Colleen used Miranda Sings almost like armor. Miranda was more of a shield for Colleen. Whenever things got uncomfortable or when she was criticized, Colleen learned to slip into Miranda as a way to deflect, avoid responsibility, or behave in ways she couldn't justify as herself. Also, Miranda's origins are quite interesting because she does contradict herself when she talks about the origin of this character. Listen to her in this documentary from Swoop.
The character Miranda is a self-described parody of someone whose talent is nowhere near as big as her ego, with the iconic imagery of smeared red lipstick.
Just take away sneak and essentially draw away sneak.
According to Colleen herself, the Miranda Sings character was inspired by her classmates at Azusa Pacific University, who she claimed were like rude, entitled, and believed strongly in themselves without having the talent or skill to back it. Basically, when you think about it, Colleen made up a character so that she could endlessly mock her classmates who were eagerly pursuing their own dreams, but apparently didn't measure up to Colleen's judgmental standard of what makes a worthy entertainer.
And now, almost 3 years after the infamous ukulele apology.
So I created the character of Miranda, put it online for my friends. Like, you know, it was a joke for my friends because, like I said, I used to sing a little bit off the pitch, like in theater and choir to make them laugh. So I created this character that was like a little off with her singing, but was really cocky. You know, I thought it was funny, and I put it on to send to my friends. And so I only uploaded stuff to YouTube to send to family and friends. This is like a joke, or, you know, performance videos of me to send to my parents at home. I was in college.
Both of these women used characters, but for opposite reasons. Ariana stepped into Glinda to find herself. She even claims the role gave her more creative freedom to speak on what she was going through.
Rearranged everything about my relationship to creating, you know? I didn't think I was going to make an album ever again when I left for London. That was kind of my secret, but I didn't think I was going to, you know?
Colleen stepped into Miranda to avoid herself with her very famous line, so one used performance for healing, while the other used performance for hiding. And I think that contrast says a lot about how art can either bring us closer to the truth or help us run from it. And the mask cracks in the best possible way. I think it's important to acknowledge this part of Ariana's story because people had started to flatten her into this perfect, soft, harmless, good girl when she became Glinda. But if you look at her history with relationships, you see a woman with insecurities, wounds, and very real patterns. Her love stories often appeared during moments when her life was shifting. The whirlwind engagement to Pete Davidson after trauma and loss, the depth and heartbreak of her connection with Mac, and the unexpected relationship with Ethan Slater, her co-star on Wicked, that emerged during her divorce. And as of now, we actually don't know the stats of that relationship. But that's not the point. None of these were clean and simple. And that's exactly why they reveal something true. Ariana is not one-dimensional. I find that it's insulting to flatten someone's character when they're such a dimensional person. She reaches for love when she feels unsteady. She gravitates towards intensity when she feels vulnerable. She wants to feel chosen when she feels lost. And while Ariana did make questionable decisions on the way, I think we can admit Don't we all feel the same way? Don't we all want to be chosen too? Even good girls, the Glindas, the soft ones, the ones we place on pedestals, have complicated, messy, emotional patterns. Ariana's are just publicly visible. And strangely, that's what made Glinda such a perfect fit. Glinda looks so polished and cheerful, but she makes emotionally heavy, complicated decisions too. And balancing between being perceived as good with doing what is right, and especially her friendship with Elphaba. Both of them, Ariana and Glinda, carry insecurities beneath all that celebrity and sparkle. The psychology behind escaping into a role. In psychology, this is called self-distancing. The idea that you can process emotions more safely when you're one step removed from yourself. A great example that I thought of was Evan Peters, who played the titular character in Dahmer. In interviews, he said that he had to go to a dark place to play this dark man, and he played the role so well, maybe even a bit too well, in fact. Other famous examples of this self-distancing in acting are Heath Ledger, may he rest in peace, for The Dark Knight, and Christian Bale for American Psycho. So Ariana wasn't trying to escape reality. She was creating a space where she could handle it, on top of the other things going on in her personal life. So what did Glinda, this character, do for Ariana? Glinda held the feelings she wasn't ready to fully claim. Glinda gave shape to emotions she couldn't articulate. Glinda offered structure when she felt like her life was falling apart. And of course, these are all things that I can assume just from what I see on screen. But I'd like to think that she actually feels this way. People often say that art heals, and I believe that this is a real example of what that could look like. Now, I am curious about you. Have you ever used a version of yourself, a mask, a persona, a character, to get through something heavy? Or have you ever softened a part of yourself because the real world was too sharp? Do you relate to this version of Ariana, the one who found safety in a character when her life felt too raw? And you know what? I gotta admit, this online space, evergreen colleen, is sort of what that is for me. It's a way for me to make sense of the world and my studies with humor, research, and humor. Really though, I get to make content that I love. And I'm always eternally grateful to someone who feels the same as me. As always, I am sending you guys lots of love and light. This has been Wickedly Green, Evergreen Colleen. I shall see you in the next video.